So I want to talk a little bit about what's going on in the States here. I thought I might rehash some of the old unarmed black man shot by police videos, but I didn't want to go over the ones that everyone was already aware of, like Trayvon Martin and Michael Brown. I think everybody knows about those. You know, the Michael Brown, the gentle giant who rushed Darren Wilson, punched him in the face, and went for his gun. These things are bullshit, but a lot of these things have been memory hold. A lot of people don't remember how many of these there really were. And this isn't a comprehensive list by any stretch of the imagination. Just some of the examples, some of the stories that came out that I remember coming out, that I remember being debunked. But I just wanted to go over some of these. These are from 2014 to 2018, most of them going on in 2016, strangely enough, around the election of Donald Trump. So the first one here is Philando Castile. I'm just going to play a little bit of this video. Hopefully I don't get copyright struck for all the videos I'm going to play here.
On Facebook. In the video, she says that Castile had a license to carry a firearm. She said she warned the officer that he would be reaching to his pocket to get his ID. The officer appears agitated.
Told him to get his hand out.
You told him to get his ID, sir, and his driver's license.
She says the officer fired, reportedly 4 times. Castile transported to the hospital.
All right, so yeah, this guy, he had a gun on him. He says he has a gun on him. I'm going to play a little bit of the dash cam footage here so you can see, because this perspective is a lot more telling of what actually happened in this case.
Don't reach for it, sir. Don't pull it out.
Okay, so it's interesting when you watch that video. Let's just back it up a little bit. So you look closely. Look at what he does here. You can see it. Actually, freeze framed here. So the guy, Philando Castile, says, "I have a gun." The cop says, "Well, don't reach for it." And then the cop says, "Don't reach for it." Count how many times he says this.
Don't reach for it, sir.
Don't reach for it.
Don't pull it out.
Don't reach for it.
Don't pull it out.
Don't pull it out. And then he reaches his arm in the car to grab his arm to keep Philando Castile from grabbing. Now, that's the thing. Cops are not actually supposed to do that. If you know anything about cop training, you're not supposed to put your arm in the vehicle, because then the suspect can grab you and pull you into the car, and then now your life's in danger. So he actually did something he wasn't supposed to do. But when a cop tells you, "Okay, don't reach for that. Don't reach down there," like, he should have taken his hand out of there. Especially when the cop reached in. You don't fight with a cop to try to grab a gun. And the woman claims, "Oh, he was reaching for his ID," but I mean, it's pretty obvious that wasn't the case. Philando Castile, by the way, had been pulled over 50 times. 50 times for minor traffic violations. In this case, he was being pulled over for a broken brake light. So, if black people are so scared of confrontations by the police, why don't you get your fucking brake light fixed so that people will stop pulling you over? I mean, and whether or not he was reaching for the gun, I mean, look, if a cop reaches in and grabs your arm, that's when you stop. That's when you stop. Okay? So this guy clearly didn't, and now he's dead. But then they moan, "Oh, this is white supremacy. You just killed my boyfriend." And then you watch the video of her. I'm not going to play the whole thing, but she's very calm throughout the whole thing. Very, very, very calm. Suspiciously calm. Could have been because she was in shock. Could have been that she was ready for her boyfriend to kill a cop. Who knows? And then there's Walter Scott. So, play this video for some context first. Okay, so that's pretty much it. Now, the video that I was looking for, I can't seem to find anymore. There was a video slightly longer than this, I remember, which actually shows them getting up off the ground. They had just been wrestling on the ground. So this black guy tackles the cop. According to the officer in this case, he went for his gun, and then when the guy got up, he starts running away. The cop pulls his gun, shoots him in the back. Now, I understand that, when something like this happens, when someone just tried to grab your gun, potentially just tried to murder you, you have a lot of you have the blood pumping, so to speak. You got a lot of adrenaline going through your system, and you can't necessarily think straight. But you are a cop, and you do know that shooting someone in the back in any circumstance is illegal. So, but the thing is, in this case, the cop was actually charged with first-degree murder. I believe maybe it was second degree. but he was sentenced to 20 years for it. And as soon as the sentencing came down, the media immediately dropped it. So this became another instance of unarmed black man shot by white police. And then when justice is served, they completely dropped the case because they don't want you to remember that the criminal justice system actually punished the cop for doing this. So then we have this one. And this guy is, what's his name? Oh, Terrence Crutcher. I remember the case, but I couldn't remember his name.
He seems to ignore their commands.
It's strange. It's hard to find the original videos that I saw when these things happened. Actually, it seems like they've been
out what happens next.
changed. I don't know. Oh shit! Something wrong with the volume here? There we go.
Police say Crutcher makes a move for something inside his car. One officer fires his taser. Officer Shelby fires her gun. Crutcher's family believes the shooting is part of what they call an epidemic of unarmed people of color killed. It's a move for something inside his car isn't cooperating.
Old traffic, I've got a subject who won't show me his hands.
Minutes later, with at least 4 officers surrounding Crutcher, his hands are raised, but he seems to ignore their commands.
This guy's still walking.
So yeah, he
taser,
puts
I
his
think.
hands up after.
That looks like a bad
he's
dude,
given
too.
the command,
It's hard to make out.
After she makes that call. But it's funny, like they show this guy. He reaches into his vehicle. They're telling him, "Don't do that. Don't do that." Again, I remember seeing the video of them. Actually, you can actually hear the officers ordering him to step away from the vehicle, and he refuses their command. This guy was on PCP, by the way.
That nigger was on PCP, Johnson.
So this drug-riddled jogger reaches into his vehicle, grabbing who knows what, and the cops are telling him, "Don't do that." One of them tases him, and the other one, I guess, didn't get the memo that they were just going to use non-lethal force, and she shot him. And I believe the cop in this, the cop was charged, but I think she was acquitted on charges for murder. But you know what? This is the thing. They again, he was unarmed. Well, you don't know he's unarmed if he's reaching into a vehicle. That's why he could pull out a gun. Like, why are you reaching into a vehicle? Why are you disregarding police commands? You know, suffice it to say, it was a dangerous situation for the cops, especially when you consider that these people kill cops at ridiculously high rates. I think black people are responsible for like 46% of all police deaths, or police homicide rather. So this is a dangerous situation for all of them, and the fact that he was on drugs certainly didn't help anything. And then they used, I don't know if I even have it on this video. Sorry, I've been sifting through so many videos. I just tried to find the ones that would allow me to make my point the best. But in this one, there's actually, in the helicopter video that you're watching right here, the cop says, "I think it's time for a taser. I think looks like a bad dude," and they try to use that as evidence that, oh, they're racist. They're racist because they said he looked like a bad dude. Well, he probably did look like a bad dude. He was on, he was a drug-riddled jogger on PCP, who stopped his car in the middle of the road. But he was killed. He was killed for calling for help for a minor traffic problem. Oh, his car was broken down, and they killed him for no reason. That's how the media portrayed this. It's total bullshit. And next we have Samuel DuBose. Now, this is another one. I will actually take the black guy's side in this case.
A white police officer
I will not take
on murder
because
charges
this was just
in the death of an
this is just
unarmed
stupid.
black man in Cincinnati.
I don't know if you
But
can
a
hear that.
25-year-old officer shot the man after a traffic stop. The cop is a university police officer, but it happened off campus. We caution you, the video in this report from Dean Reynolds is graphic.
Hey, how's it going, man?
Early on the evening of July 19th, University of Cincinnati policeman Raymond Tensing pulled in front of his car.
I'm asking you a direct question. Do you have your license on?
I thought I'd be lying. What did you pull me over for?
Again, the front tag.
When DuBose failed to produce a driver's license, a routine stop turned
That's what it
tense.
is. Well, until I can figure out if you have a license or not.
This video from Officer Tensing's body camera shows what happened next. As Tensing tried to open the car door, DuBose, who was unarmed, resisted and began to slowly roll away.
Stop! Stop!
Tensing fatally shot him in the head at point-blank range and then called it in.
Shot fired! Shot fired!
Now again, I'm not saying that you know, the guy in this case obviously didn't do what he was supposed to do. He shouldn't try to run from police, especially when the cop's standing right there. But you know, you also can't just shoot someone. You can't use lethal force in a case like this. And again, the cop was charged with murder. And again, when the sentencing came down, the media immediately dropped it. So, we have this idea that the courts are rigged in the favor of the police, and that is generally true in many cases, but the cops can't just do whatever they want. They can't just kill anyone they want, which is what they want to, that's what they want to say. That's what the media attempts to portray, that the police can simply murder black people and the lives of these people don't matter. And that's just not the case, and that's why I'm bringing these up. You look at these just objectively, and this is another one. Freddie Gray, you remember this guy from Baltimore? This is the guy they threw him in the back of a van and drove around until his spine broke. And they said this is another example of white supremacy until these mugshots surfaced, at which time the media again dropped the case. They stopped talking about it. They just, as soon as it gets blown out, as soon as you see that half of the people involved are black, you can't make the case that it's a racial issue, they drop it. So this is all propaganda, and all of these cases are portrayed in the same way, despite the fact that there are varying degrees of culpability on all sides. It just seems obvious to me that this is propaganda from the left, but also from the right. Conservatism is complicit in all of this, as they always are. And so, yeah, just to illustrate the left-wing view of this, I just want to play a little bit of this video. I'm not sure if I should just describe. I'm just going to play it from here.
$0.
So here.
A jury in Florida has agreed to award the family of a man who was shot and killed by cops a grand total of $4. But the judge later lowered that number to $0. I'm not kidding. Now, let me give you the background to this story, and then I will explain how this jury decision came about. It has. Yes.
Can I just say, Anna?
Sure.
Look, there's two parts of this story that has me totally enraged, and more than enraged, actually, just really, really disappointed. And I think I underestimated the racism in this country. As much as we have covered it, and I've seen a billion cases of it, I didn't know it was this bad. And so I want you to guys, as Anna's telling you this story, focus on two different things. One is, how do they value the life and the family of the guy? And then secondarily, who was at fault, the cop or the person who got shot? Which is already a funny question, but yeah. So now take a look at that.
Okay. So this story has to do with a man by the name of Gregory Vaughn Hill Jr. He was a man in Florida who happened to be in his own garage playing music. Now, Hill, a 30-year-old African-American, was fatally shot by a white sheriff's deputy who had responded to a noise complaint about the music that he had been playing in his garage. Hill had been shot 3 times by one of the deputies, and that deputy's name is Christopher Newman. Now, how did this story even come about? How did it develop into this tragedy? Well, it all started when a mother picking up children from an elementary school heard the loud music coming from the garage of a nearby home. She called in a noise complaint.
Wow, I didn't know it was that serious.
And 2 St. Lucie County Sheriff's deputies, Deputy Newman and Edward Lopez, responded. Okay.
In other words, this guy's playing loud, abrasive, probably very obscene rap music next to an elementary school, and someone complained. Some Karen, as people like Scott Greer would say, some Karen called the police on this poor innocent who didn't do nothing. Okay.
Okay, so let's stop there for a second. Just a quick commentary about the mother. You're gonna go pick up kids from a school and leave. How about, like, don't meddle in other people's lives? You don't like the noise, then leave, okay? If a neighbor called a noise complaint, that may be one thing, but you're going to pick up your kids and you're gonna complain about loud music?
Yeah, maybe she doesn't want her 7-year-old kid to be exposed to, like, really disgusting, obscene stuff, you know? Maybe she cares about her children, you hook-nosed idiot.
Nothing better to do? All right.
Okay, look, I get that. Cops, you're responding to a noise complaint, okay? And the guy is in his own garage. And so, but you're gonna escalate. So you're gonna see how bad the escalation is. Obviously, he was, he's already, that he was killed.
By responding to a call
but just think about that context. They didn't get called in on a robbery or an attempted murder or a rape or domestic violence. They got called in on a noise complaint. And imagine if the guy was white for a second, okay? And let's do the rest of the story.
So the cops show up, the garage door is closed. So they start banging on the garage door. At first, there's no response. They keep banging on it. And finally, Hill opens the garage door.
So he ignores them at first.
Okay. Now, at that point, apparently, there are only 3 witnesses there, the 2 cops and the person who was shot and killed. But everything happened within 2 minutes, and that's according to the reporting from the New York Times. So some exchange happens, and then the garage door was eventually closed. And
Eventually closed by whom? Who closed the door? You don't notice that? They don't say he closed the door. They don't say Greg Hill closed the door. They said it was eventually closed. Miraculously. It just happened.
Newman fired 4 times through it, striking Hill once in the head and twice in the abdomen. The entire episode took less than 2 minutes. So how would you know that the garage door was closed? Because there are bullet shots through the garage door. Now let me ask you something. If an individual poses an imminent threat, would they pose a threat with a door closed? I mean, the guy obviously...
Yes, if they have a gun and they can shoot through the garage door just as the cops did, yes, they do.
Wanted the cops to go away. He closes the garage door. They decide, or one of the cops decides, I'm going to open fire. He shoots, and this man gets shot 3 times. Now, the cops had alleged that he did pose a threat because he was holding a gun. Okay.
Wow,
the only gun recovered was found in Mr. Hill's back pocket and was not loaded. Lawyers have argued about
so
whether...
it was in his back pocket. So in other words, he has a gun. They find out after the fact it wasn't loaded, something that the cops don't know and something Cenk will admit to.
It was possible for Hill to have moved the gun to his pocket after the garage door closed.
Okay, so get a load of this load of crap. And then we're going to talk about what the jury decided. They said, and remember, the guy's shot 3 times, including in the head. After he's shot in the head, he took the gun that wasn't, if it wasn't loaded, okay, you could say, hey, the cops don't know it's not loaded. Okay, I hear you on that. But why would he point it if he knows it's not loaded? But he somehow decided that he was going to point a loaded gun through the garage door that the cops couldn't see. And after he got shot in the head, he's like, wait, I'm about to die, but let me make sure that I cover my tracks in the 1 second of life I have left and put it back in my back pocket.
It's not relevant.
Who could be monstrously stupid enough to believe that? Who, like, oh, well, the cops, they're gods. Black guy in his own garage. His music was a little too loud and you executed him. Bravo, cops. Bravo, that's what the jury decided. And so, yeah, no, I think that as he got shot in the head, he put the gun back into his back pocket. Now, why don't you just say, I hate black people, I think their life is worthless, and I'm glad the cop executed him for playing his music too loud.
Well, look, you said it, not me, buddy, but.
Why don't you just say it, just own up to it? That's not one person, that was a whole jury. A whole
jury thought that. You see that? You see the propaganda? A whole jury thought this man's life was worthless because he was black. That's according to Cenk Uygur.
A whole jury of people who don't value black people's lives at all. I'm sorry. As much as we have covered it, I had no idea how racist this country is. That a whole jury can get together. And by the way, we haven't even gotten to insult to injury yet.
Yeah, the worst part of the story. I mean, the worst part is the loss of life, obviously. But
yeah, I don't think I need to go into this. So his family was awarded like $4. By the way, what they don't tell you is that the fucking family that asked in a wrongful death suit, they were asking for like $10 million from this. They wanted like $10 million from the police force. That is not a grieving family asking for money because we're so heartbroken by a loss. That's just give me money, nigga. That's what that is. That's what that is. That is opportunistic bullshit. Okay, so that's why they got $4, and that's why it was lowered to $0 because fuck them and fuck this guy. Okay, but this is the propaganda. See, 342,000 people have watched this video. Now it's gotten ratioed pretty bad, but this is not a fringe view of how the media portrays these things. This is average. This is the mainstream. This is what people are told, and they're being told this by vicious ideologues. So when you see these riots today, when you see the culmination of this sort of propaganda that goes on, where you portray all of these cases as if they're exactly the same, circumstance doesn't matter, what the black guy did doesn't matter. All that matters is that a cop killed a black man and he was unarmed. I was trying to find another one. There was one case I saw. I can't find the video anymore and I can't remember his name. But there was one, actually the Young Turks cover this as well, where there was a black man running away from a cop. and the cop shoots him in the back, and they said, oh my God, they shot this unarmed man as he was running away. But if you look at the video very closely, you can see that the black guy pulls out a gun and points it back at the cop. So again, he wasn't unarmed, and he was shooting someone who was an imminent threat. So, cops at this point, and this video is back in 2018. Most of these are from 2016. They were already eroding away the ability for cops to defend themselves and vilifying the cops and saying, oh, this country is racist. They don't value your life if you're black. And so when you see these riots, a lot of people seem to look at the looters and think that's the prime motivation for this. Now, the motivation is that after years of bullshit, after years of leftist propaganda telling these people that white society doesn't value the life of any black person, and therefore black people should be able to do violence to whites in response justly, this is what happens. You get mass riots, you get burning, looting, and killing. That's what this is. This is the reason. These fucking people right here are responsible. Now, I just want to play a little bit what the conservative response to all of this, Blue Lives Matter, this fucking limp-dicked, limp-wristed response to propaganda, is perfectly summed up in Sheriff David Clarke, this guy who almost always, this is one of the few examples where he doesn't have a cowboy hat on, this fucking pathetic boomer. But what I found interesting about this speech in particular is the way that he plays to white sensibilities. Just listen to this. He knows his audience.
A concept that 5 law enforcement officers were murdered and 9 more were wounded for earlier this month, and for which 3 more were murdered 2 days ago in Baton Rouge, Louisiana. And that is the importance of making America safe again.
Making America safe. See, that is a white sensibility. I just want to live in a nice, safe community. I don't want any problems. Just leave me alone and let me be safe. You see how he's pandering to people? Not about having a strong state or a strong police force that are able to defend themselves without being.
You see, I believe that this noble mission is not just a requirement, but a prerequisite for achieving this campaign's goal of making America great again. We simply cannot be great if we do not feel safe in our homes, on our streets, and in our schools. I see this every day at street level, where many Americans increasingly have an uneasiness about the ability of their families to live safely in these troubling times. This transcends race, religion.
No, it doesn't. And this is the point. This is a racial issue, and you don't want to address that. And that's why Sheriff David Clarke has to be the poster child for all of this. It can't be a white man saying these things. It has to be a minority. It has to be a black. A black has to come out and tell you that you deserve to be safe. You deserve to be safe from people like me, who aren't law enforcement officers. Yes, I mean this is a fucking joke. This is contributing to the browning of conservatism and pushing out, as we see today. The CPAC conference, where there wasn't a single white kid in that group photo of all the youths at CPAC. It's like they just want to rob us of every aspect of political or social power. And this guy was sort of a prototype to this, where I'm a conservative redneck, but I'm also a black man, so I can say the things you can't say. Well, you know what? I want to say these things, and I don't want you to speak for me. Thank you very much. And also, Sheriff David Clarke said something that was completely indefensible. I thought it was in a conversation with Don Lemon, but I can only seem to find the ones the dispute between him and Don Lemon, where he was told to get out. But one of their conversations, he claimed that police brutality doesn't happen anymore. It hasn't happened since the 1980s. Well, that's bullshit. That's a lie. Police brutality does happen, and it happens to white people. It happens to white people all the time. It happens to everyone. And you know what? Maybe police reforms do need to take place, but the fact is that nobody on either side is actually acting authentically. The left does not want police reforms. They don't want to protect people. They don't want a strong police force that will protect people and help them. They want to destroy the police. They want to destroy any semblance of order, as they've destroyed the institutions and tried to tear down everything that our ancestors built. And the conservative response to this is this limp-dicked, oh, let's trot out another minority, let's trot out another person to try to combat the liberal narrative that we're all racist. Fuck these people. Fuck David Clark. This is worthless. This is garbage. And when you look at how garbage it was back then, it looks even more pathetic now. Now, what is this all culminated in? Well, recently, some of you may know about Nicholas Fernandez. I'm not going to show that picture. You can just look him up. Nicholas Fernandez that ran his car into a group of people, into a bunch of these Antifas type, and shot one of them, actually. One of them approached his vehicle and tried to punch him, I think, and he pulled out a gun and shot them. And the day after that happened, in, I believe it was Seattle, this guy, Harry Rogers, does a similar thing where he rams his truck into a bunch of protesters. I don't believe he killed anyone, they were just injured. But this is an interesting character. Interesting because I can't seem to find... Oh, come on. Fucking ads.
110.
Shut up. I can't seem to find anything about this guy. I tried to find his social media. I tried to look him up. Not only can I not find any evidence that he was the president of the Ku Klux Klan, which he claimed as soon as he got out of the vehicle and approached police, but that he even exists. I can't find any evidence that this man even exists. I can't find his picture. Nothing about this dude. So I'm not sure. I mean, the Ku Klux Klan, we all know that's a fucking fed op. They've been thoroughly infiltrated for many years now. But you know, I don't even know if this guy exists. I think this is all bullshit because they've been trying to blame all of these riots on white supremacists and they've been unsuccessful because they don't have any fucking evidence. And so they've just resorted to fabricating. They're just going to bullshit. Like, who the fuck is this guy? Harry Rogers. And what's funny is that in all of these articles, every single article of this, they say that a cursory glance at his social media confirms his identity. But they don't link to his social media. They don't show you who he is. So I would like to say myself, I'd like to see this myself. I'd like to take that cursory glance myself and see, if he really was who he claims he is. But, I just don't believe it. I think this is bullshit. I think this guy's probably a fucking FBI informant. And now, as many of you have probably seen this, the Bank of America has decided to donate $1 billion to fight racial inequality. Now, what most people seem to be glossing over here is what this money is actually being directed toward. It's not being donated to Black Lives Matter, to any activist groups. It is being targeted toward minority communities, blacks and Latinos. I don't know if it's right here. Yeah, so it's Bank of America has pledged $1 billion, and it's pledged another $100 million to its nonprofit partners. And then you have Goldman Sachs, J.P. Morgan, I believe Citigroup's in here, Wells Fargo. These banks are all donating a lot of money and have been donating for some time. I say here there was like $50 million back in March and then $300 million in April. And these things are being aimed at fighting coronavirus testing, and subsidizing people who've lost their jobs. So in other words, this is relief aid in the middle of a pandemic, but it's relief aid that's being administered under the guise of fighting racism in the wake of this George Floyd bullshit. And so white people aren't going to see a dime of this. You're not going to get any of this. This is a private institution providing relief aid on the basis of race and using this bullshit as a cover to do it. And this blows out a couple of narratives. One, I've been thinking about this. I don't know how any liberal, because they usually try to spin these things. Oh, a corporation or institution is supporting my agenda. Oh, they're just doing that cynically because they want to make money. How are they possibly going to make money off of this? After they're just bailed out, they're just given two $6 trillion stimuluses, and now they're giving money away by the billions to minorities? What the fuck? And how are they going to make money off this? Do you think that black people are going to start opening new accounts with Bank of America because they support my community? I don't think that's going to happen. I don't think it's going to happen. And even if it did, is that going to compensate for the $1 billion? The nominal bank fees, a few people paying their nominal bank fees every month, is that going to make up for that? No, that's bullshit. That's bullshit. They're doing it because of ideological reasons. And this bank, Bank of America, is headed by a guy named Brian Moynihan, who, if you look at Investopedia, there are three main shareholders in Bank of America. Brian Moynihan, who's the executive, and then there's Thomas Montag and Jeffrey Greener, who are both Jewish. So it's very interesting that the only one of the three who isn't Jewish is their front man. And of course, he's Irish Catholic, which I've noticed if you look up the chair and vice chairs of the Federal Reserve, it seems like the goys that have been put in place to replace the Jews under Obama, they're all Irish Catholic as well. So this seems to be a cover. Irish Catholic seems to be a very popular choice of a Shabbos goy lately. But it's just very interesting that they're willing to do this, and it also destroys the sort of libertarian talking point of the welfare system being a tool for wealth distribution, right? Oh, these racist libertarians always say, well, you should want to abolish the welfare system because white people are the majority of the ones who pay into it, but they're not the majority of the ones who reap the benefits of it. You know, disproportionately racial minorities do, and so you should just want to get rid of it. Well, okay, but here's the thing: if you privatize it, this is what you get. This is the result of an actual privatized welfare system, where they simply use anti-racism as a means of cutting you out completely. So rather than white people disproportionately, I should say minorities disproportionately benefiting from it, they just become the sole benefactors of it, and we just get fucked. We just get ignored. So. This is disgusting. Like this is just a big fucking cash injection from big powerful Jews in the financial institutions to minorities, and a big fuck you to whitey, because you're both liberals and conservatives have both been peddling this rhetoric that like this is just to divide us. The elite are trying to divide Americans. Well, we're already divided. We're divided by race. We're divided by tribe. We're divided by biology. But this is a lot more than that. No, what they're trying to do is manufacture conflict between the races to essentially start a war, a civil war. And that's what these lies are about. That's why they frame every single instance, regardless of the situation, in exactly the same manner, because it's not about reality. If you were to objectively sit down and evaluate these things, most people could come to some sort of a nuanced, reasoned response. But you can't. You're not allowed to. You're not supposed to. Instead, what you're supposed to do is just take a side, just be tribal. And the people that are promoting tribalism through their propaganda are the first ones to denounce it when a white person becomes tribal, right? It's only one way. This propaganda has always been anti-white. And it's just disgusting. Like what this is going to result in is bloody murder, and it has already done so. There have been multiple people murdered in these riots, and nobody cares. Nobody's talking about it. Nobody's talking about the 3 Irish boys that were recently stabbed while these Africans laughed and cheered it on. Like this is going to get worse and worse and worse, and we don't have any political solutions. You know, Donald Trump was bullshit. There's no one to stand up for us. There's no one taking our side. You know, even the goys, even the ethnic whites in the elite class have betrayed us. So we have to stop looking at this and thinking that we have some sort of political solution. I'm not advocating violence here. I'm not advocating for anything. But when the walls close in and when your options are restricted to the point where you really only have one way out, you know, things are going to get ugly. And don't be surprised if you see a lot more people who, you know, you might mistake for Fed posters on Twitter and such. People are just frustrated, and they understand that they have no other solution. And you know, it might be that the media finally gets their the white terrorism that they've been salivating in the mouth for. But I think that you know, if they're going to portray us as violent terrorists anyway, what the fuck does it even matter at this point? What does it matter? Just do whatever you have to survive. Do what you have to keep yourself safe. Protect yourself. And don't worry about the media. Don't worry about doxing. You know, we just have to focus on forming communities and forming bulwarks against their tactics. Because it doesn't seem like there's any way that we're going to be able to get out of this at this point. It's heading the direction they've been pushing it. So prepare accordingly. Thank you, and good night.